and she has had a special interest in making sure health care is available for all people living in Benton County. As a county commissioner, she has overseen the development of high-quality county health department. Earlier in her career, she helped develop policy for Oregon Health Plan and social services integration for patients in the Oregon Health Plan. We are honored this morning that she is here to take part in our Medicare birthday celebration. Commissioner Modrell.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. You know, 46 years ago, just today, President Johnson signed Medicare into law. And then that time he remarked, "There are men and women in pain who will find ease. There are those alone and suffering who will now hear the sound of approaching help. There are those fearing the terrible darkness of despair and poverty, despite long years of labor and expectation, who will now see the light of hope and realization." And you know, the first person to enroll was President Truman. He set an example for the country and tried hard to do something about health care himself. As I thought about the beginning of Medicare, I decided I needed to check a little bit on the history. While many of us were around in 1965, most of us weren't contemplating its use. Certainly my parents were too young, and I was oblivious. I had a 2.5-year-old son, and I was busy, with my life. I didn't even give it a second thought. However, my grandmother was eligible, and so I hadn't thought about it at the time, but looking back, this must have been a huge relief for her 2 children, that there was some expectation that some health care could be obtained without their having to somehow come up with the money to cover it, because we didn't have a lot of money. And her 2 children were my mother and my aunt. I found some of the history in something called Reflections on Implementing Medicare. This information was collected from those who were involved in the inception and the implementation of Medicare, because when this information was collected, it was in the early 90s, and oh my God, we thought we were going to have health care reform for a minute, And so there was some thinking that there could be lessons learned from what had happened in trying to get Medicare up and going. And when you think about it, it's a huge, complicated system. Much more complicated now than it was then, but oh my goodness, huge, just huge. So I excerpted some of Robert Ball's comments to his staff that he made on November 15th, 1965. And Mr. Ball was the Commissioner of Social Security, which, as you know, is the home of Medicare. And so he said to his staff, he said,